Welcome to the world awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust. Welcome back to the World Awaits. How are you all? How's your week been, Kirsty?
Oh my God, such a good week. I was fortunate to stay at the newly opened Hotel Indigo Melbourne Little Collins. So the hotel has such a great vibe and it's in an amazing location right near the gorgeous Block Place with its European style cafes. And it's part of this new dual hotel project that took 8 years to come to life. And it's now home to Hotel Indigo and also the Holiday Inn. So you go in via Little Collins and it's just very discreet. To get in there, and you go up a little lift and it opens up to just a sea of vibrant blue, which was designed that way as a nod to Melbourne's blue street signs.
Yeah, super cute. But it's all part of the larger Melbourne Walk development right beside Mecca. So, which I think is just fascinating because it's actually created a new laneway. What did you think of it, Kirsty?
Yeah, loved the location. It's such a great location. And it has a really luxurious feel to it. So, but it's just really super cool. So not sort of stuffy. So this is the thing about when you go and stay in hotels, you just get the vibe, right? It's just such a great way to kind of get a sense of it. And I just loved it. It felt really comfortable, but really luxurious. We stayed in a suite that had this huge terrace. So you could easily fit like 20 people on it. That's how big it was. So you go into the room and then it's such a beautiful room, massive bathroom with a walk-in wardrobe, and you can it's got doors that you can sort of slide it off because, who wants to have an open toilet in their suite? And then you walk in through past the bed and there's a little sitting area with a beautiful luxurious sort of armchair, and then you go outside to this terrace and you can just sit out there and, have a vino and watch the beautiful lights come on the city skyscrapers. And it's so pretty and so lovely. So yeah, you got everything in there that you need, all your amenities and everything. And then we had dinner at the restaurant called Fern. It's led by Daryl Hand and it's a modern Melbourne dining concept. And the food was I have to say, the food was really exceptional. I had a really nice feeling in there too. Again, all the blues everywhere. Beautiful design, very luxury feel to it. I had black and white sesame prawn toast with Yarra Valley caviar to die for. And then I had barramundi with cauliflower cream and Skull Island prawns. And for breakfast, the great thing about breakfast is they do have a beautiful little buffet, but you don't have to just have the buffet. There's a la carte available as well. So, and of course, lots of amazing places to dine around there. So yeah, I loved the hotel. I would absolutely go back again in a heartbeat, and I would recommend it. And also this week, I had another exceptional dining experience. So in Melbourne. So that was at Atlas Dining in South Yarra. So we were both there, Belle and I, and this one's run by head chef and owner Charlie Carrington. And the concept here has always been that he has a changing menu every few months. It's kind of what he's famed for. So but when we were there, we had a taste of Hong Kong, and Belle was there too. And oh my God, how good was that food, Belle?
It was so delicious. I thought that was interesting. Charlie said that, the concept of the food is like, so if he goes traveling in, I don't know, Kyrgyzstan, he's going to cook a Kyrgyzstan menu. But he hadn't, he's actually been to Hong Kong about 9 times, and he said he hadn't done a Hong Kong menu yet, but he said it was one of his easiest because Hong Kong food is one of his favorites. And I have to say, he brought it all. The tea-smoked duck, yum. The Wagyu beef, oh my goodness, with that clay pot rice. We were like animals. We kept saying, I'm so full, I'm so full. What in between? Absolutely stuffing our faces. We were just hoovering it up. And I absolutely loved the frozen mango that was pressed into the shape of a mooncake because honestly, by the time dessert came round, I was like, oh, I'm so full. I can't eat a whole, very solid mooncake, but it was a frozen mango and it was just delicious. So we absolutely hoovered everything. I think Atlas Dining is a really interesting place to go.
Yeah. Totally, absolutely was. And that food was just exceptional. And the French champagne wasn't too bad either.
Yeah, absolutely. It just reminded me about how good Hong Kong is. Look, I used to travel there all the time, either staying either going to Hong Kong itself in its own right or as a transit stop off. And it really is the most exceptional city for eating. Did you know, Kirsty, fun fact, that there are 79 restaurants in Hong Kong with Michelin star ratings?
Wow.
And that's going from literally on the street eating, because the street eating is phenomenal, right up to those stratospheric absolute wallet busters. It is an exceptional food scene. And hopefully we're going to have a bit more on it and give you a where to eat list in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and I love that how you find these Michelin starred restaurants as just street food eateries, because how cool is that? I mean, you don't have to pay an absolute fortune to have that sort of experience. Right, well, this week we're actually chatting about Lonely Planet's best place to travel in 2026. So every year, Lonely Planet's team of writers and editors come up with the 25 must-visit destinations and 25 essential experiences around the globe. This is so cool. So it's expert predictions of what you should be doing for the year ahead.
I do love this list. It's always fascinating because you see, if you have been traveling to those places, or it suddenly it opens up new areas. Some of them feel like old favourites though for 2026, at least for Australians, because South Australia's Ikara Flinders Ranges are named in the top places hot list, and also you've got Melbourne's food scene is on there, yay, as we've just been saying, and Victoria's bathing trail is also included in the 2026 top experiences hot list. So, as you might have noticed, you can barely turn around without hitting a bathhouse. But the jewels really are centred around, like Victoria's very lucky in this sense because of its geothermal waters that are subterranean. So, and they're heated below the crust. And then so when they come up, we've got this delicious, really healthful water. And it was all really kicked off, I think, by the OG, which just happens springs in central Victoria. And then the Peninsula Hot Springs on the Mornington Peninsula refined it. So I'd add Albert to that list, which is right across the road, and that taps into that same aquifer that the Peninsula Hot Springs shares. And if you're on the Great Ocean Road, the Deep Blue Hotel in Warrnambool, which has hot springs on its property.
Yeah, and keep an eye out for the Phillip Island new hot springs that are opening soon. Apparently, the date does keep moving a little bit. I'm also not surprised that the Flinders is there because I was there a while back and we did the Aqaba walk, where you walk about 24,000-ish steps, or about 10 to 15 Ks a day, and which doesn't sound like a lot, but oh my gosh, it's hilly and really steep to the point where, in some of it we were literally crawling up cliffs, the side of cliffs on our hands and with our hands. But the highlight has to be, of course, that view of the 17-kilometre Wilpena Pound, which is just remarkable. And the sheer scale of it, it's one of those things in life that you just have to see to really believe. So others on the list of the 25 best destinations where Flinders came in fourth were Botswana, which topped the list, and that was followed by Peru.
Oh, I love Peru. I travelled through there on train, and not just any train. I was on the Hiram Bingham, which is Belmont's luxury train that takes you from Cusco up to Machu Picchu. I remember on the way down, on the way up, everyone was really stressing about the altitude. On the way down, the band was playing in the bar car, and everybody danced all the way back to Cusco. It was fantastic. And also the Andean Explorer, which goes from the white city of Arequipa, absolutely, it is the most beautiful city in Peru, through across to Lake Titicaca and then to Cusco, which is when you then jump off to go to Machu Picchu. On that list as well is Jeju in South Korea, beloved by honeymooners. And fifth on the list is another place very close to my heart, which is Cadiz in southern Spain. Which is there with Liberdade in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Look, if you haven't been to Cadiz, it is just the most magnificent Andalusian city on the southerly tip of Spain. Literally throw a pebble and you'll just about hit Morocco. So unlike its neighbour Seville, which so many of us have been to, it's not really on the trail for international tourists, but the Spaniards love Cadiz. They love it, and they love it hard. And with really good reason, because it's a beautiful coastal city. It's got a fantastic ice cream scene, which I have to say, Spanish ice cream, yum, yum. The tapas is fabulous seafood tapas, and there's loads and loads of history. Possibly the most famous site is the Cape of Trafalgar, which is where what we know as the Battle of Trafalgar actually took place offshore here in 1805. It's funny that it's always associated, I think in my head anyway, with London and Trafalgar Square and Horatio Nelson, who defeated the French and the Spanish fleets, naval fleets. It's actually here in southern Spain. So Cadiz.
I need to go. Yes, I need to go there. And sixth on the list was Sardinia. So anyone who's listened to the podcast would know that my love of Sardinia. So we cycled for about 210 kilometres around the south a year ago, and it was so quiet. And it's actually the location of one of the newest blue zones, which is a place called Toluda, which we cycled through as well. And that's blue zones are the places where people live the longest and healthiest lives. And you can see why, because the way they live is just really back to basics. Everything's grown on the land. It's a really slow pace of life, a good, strong sense of community. And when you cycle through there, there's just, everything from stunning Mediterranean beaches to medieval villages and vineyards and gorgeous, quaint little towns. And we ended at the town of Pula, which is my favourite little town, and I think at the moment in Italy. I mean, oh my gosh, this gorgeous little quaint little town with beautiful restaurants and really easily walkable and cycle. You can cycle around there too. So I'm just dying to go back there. I might have to make another plan to go back there. Maybe I'll go to Spain first and then Sardinia.
You can absolutely do that. I would thoroughly recommend southern Spain. It's just phenomenal. So also on the top 10 list, Tunisia. I am super pleased to report to see it there, because I think it's one of those places that just, is constantly overlooked. And I do love North Africa. I was there in March, so I consider myself ahead of the trend. And look, I think it's totally worth it for the Mediterranean beaches. But for me, it was the oases in the Sahara and the cave hotels. If you had to stay in one place, I would make it Doriat Jeep, which is in Tatooine. If you skip back to episode 96, you can hear all about my adventures through this little gorgeous country, which I visited with Intrepid Travel. And the top experiences the top two were hiking and wild camping in Tajikistan and going on a cultural food tour through Old Dubai. I'm actually a bit bummed that when I was in Central Asia in Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, of course, Tajikistan is probably the least loved little sister of the five stands. So it's really interesting. It's one of those, Lonely Planet likes to put some wild cards in there, and I think that is one of it as well. And the cultural food tour through Old Dubai is great because it blows the myth that Dubai is just all about glitz. It's a city that has a fascinating history and traditions from people that were until recently nomadic. And I mean, Dubai and Abu Dhabi have amazing international food scenes, but this lets you go, you don't have to be eating at all of the Michelin star restaurants. You do actually eat on the street, and the street food in Dubai is fantastic and it's super varied. So what do you think? What do you think of Dubai, Kirsty?
Yeah, I love it. It's great. I absolutely loved it. I love Dubai, and I love the old town, wandering through there, and the juxtaposition of the old and the new obviously is just what makes it really fascinating. So I loved it. Also stay in a train carriage at Kruger National Park, South Africa, and spend the night in a rare conn in Japan. I've done that last one. Oh my God, amazing experience. We stayed in one at the top of the Ia Valley, which is in Shikoku Island. So it was amazing. It felt like we were on the top of a mountain, which we probably weren't, but it is very mountainous, obviously, that valley, and so pretty, just stunning. And it's such a great way to feel connected to the culture in a really genuine way. So I loved it.
And also on that list of experiences, you could track desert elephants in Namibia. I'm so here for that. Look for jaguars in the wetlands of Iberia in Argentina, or watch a flying cholitas match, which is between professional female wrestlers in Bolivia. So we will put a link to the full list in the show notes. This week, my guest is musician David Bridie, who is the founder of the world music group Not Drowning Waving. He first went to Papua New Guinea as a 24-year-old, and he has returned more than 40 times.
Amazing. He sounds fascinating, Belle. So, I mean, obviously you'd want to interview him, but what specifically made you want to have a chat now?
Well, I was actually interviewing him for Paradise, which is Air New Guinea's in-flight magazine, because it's the 50th anniversary of the independence of PNG from Australia. So when David first went to PNG, he met a musician called George Telek, and in 1990 they collaborated on their first album, Tabaran. So fast forward to today, he and Telek, now Sir George, were asked to perform that album for the 50th anniversary celebrations. And when they started rehearsing, everybody started adding their own bits and pieces and basically created a whole new album, which they have released called Malira. So David's talking to us about, those times that he has experienced in PNG recording with local musicians, and he's actually been initiated into a tribe in PNG. It's absolutely fascinating. Take a listen. David, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you on The World Awaits.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Now, I have to start off right at the top with your connections with PNG. When most Australian kids were going to London or the US in the 80s for their year abroad, you went to Papua New Guinea. And I'm wondering, what made you choose our closest neighbour, but also in the other sense, our most remote?
I think, look, because it was our closest neighbour, but so different from my life in the suburbs of Melbourne. I played in band Not Drowning Waving. Mark Worth was a filmmaker whose father was in the Navy in Manus Island, the naval base up there. So Mark spent the first 15 years of his there in Papua New Guinea. He would regale me with tales about adventures in Papua New Guinea, and that enthralled me. I thought, that sounds like such a fantastic place. I even remember as a kid having a Jacaranda Atlas, and at the back it had this section of flora and fauna from Papua New Guinea, and it just grabbed my attention as being, wow, this would be an amazing place to go. I was aware of the connection that Australia had both with the war and our colonial history and with the Kiaps. So I thought, well, let's over there. England and America can wait until later.
And how old were you when you first started travelling there? And when you got off that plane, what was your first impressions of PNG?
It was 24 when I first went to PNG, and we arrived in Port Moresby and had this wild first night drinking duty-free gin on Ella Beach. And we also were staying right near, there was a rugby league game. Football ground was in Morocco, so we stayed there, and that was all happening. It was a Sunday afternoon, I think. The next morning we flew up to Wewak and went and stayed at this guest house run by this eccentric German man named Ralph Stuttgart. And then we went down to the Sepik River the next morning. So I was 24, this is 1986. And so, my first trip overseas, I was in this village on the Sepik River within a day and a half. I was just fantastic. Lots of mosquitoes. But the river, the Sepik's this mighty, it's like the Nile or the Amazon or the Mississippi. It's this big aqua highway and so many villages along there, and the artwork was astonishing in these big house tambourines. I was there with a few friends, and all of us were just gawking at everything because everything was new. Every smell, every sound, every visual, both the natural world and the people and the dwellings. I was in a constant state of amazement.
And it's also really remote. So much of it is really inaccessible now, but in the 80s as well, especially places like the Sepik River, are almost inaccessible even today. How did people receive you when you first started travelling in PNG?
Oh, they were like Papua New Guinean people, Melanesian people in general are really hospitable. And we were just young kids, so people were really nice. Sometimes people think it's weird. We were sleeping in these old nuns' rooms on wooden slats or on a concrete floor. It was pretty Spartan, and we were making it up as we went along. But I think what we found is if you stayed in a place for a little bit longer and you got to know people, the hospitality really came out. People were quite going anywhere for one night. It's kind of, one day or something, everything's new and you're not sure what's going on and they don't know what to make of you. We were young. And of course, later on, after many, many trips, sometimes, when you had more money, you can stay. There's some wonderful hotel accommodation and resorts, and which was kind of an easier way of doing it. But I that first trip, we went to the Sepik, caught a boat from Wewak to Madang, woke up in the morning, and Manam Island was it was a volcano, so it was smoking, and then we were in Madang for a while, then went up to Manus and stayed at Ponam Island there, heard Garamot drumming and dancing, then went to cavying and caught a truck on the back of a copper truck down the Bulaminsky Highway to Namat. I went over to Rabaul. That's where I met George Tellick, the singer, at Pacific Gold Studios. Hung out with him for a few days and at the studio for a bit. And that cemented the reason why I've kept going back to this day, 40 years later. But even then, I'd fallen in love with the place. Some bits were so gobsmackingly beautiful. And other bits were hard. It was a very different world, but I found it really opened my awareness about the world and thinking about things differently. I find it inspiring. So, yeah.
It's, a 40-year relationship with the country and so in depth. I mean, since that time, you've created incredible musical connections with George Tellick, who you just played with in Melbourne recently for the 50th anniversary, because also you were travelling in PNG, what was only 10 years or so after it had become a country that was independent from Australia.
Yeah,
that time.
Really early. We were there. It was quite interesting. I've been doing some music for a couple of the documentaries that were about the 50th, the amazing celebration that was the 50th year. We were there just 10 years after those black and white shots of Michael Samari and Gough Whitlam and those amazing scenes around that time. He's changed a lot since that first time we were there. It's been an incredible trajectory for such a young country.
Well, I wanted to ask you, how many times have you returned in that last 40 years? And what is it that keeps drawing you back? Is it the food? Is it the scenery? Clearly, music is integral to it. So do you go back every year?
Yeah, I've gone back pretty much. I reckon I've been there 40, 45 times or something since that first time. So once or twice a year. And sometimes I'm going because I've got some really interesting work stuff, whether, be recording with George, some film soundtrack work, producing things we're doing with the One Talk Music Foundation. Sometimes I go up because I've got friends there, friends that have become almost like family, especially in Rabaul, but also in Bougainville and Manus. And some of the people I met when I was there the first time, some of them may have passed on, but their kids I'm really close with because you just that constant relationship with. So I feel really blessed to, and that's part of the attraction to go back. But I think Papua New Guinea and also the Solomons and Vanuatu have this natural beauty about them. Village life, grassroots life in Papua New Guinea I find quite amazing. It's resilient. People are eating food from the same gardens that their ancestors going back however many thousand years still eat from. So if you're into diving or bushwalking or butterflies, or if you're a volcanologist, or if you're into music, or if you're into carvings, if you're into storytelling, if you're into history, Papua New Guinea, these parts of the world have such fascination and such magnetism about them. It's not for everyone, but I always try to encourage young Australian people to go there, whether on a holiday or to do some work, volunteer, or if you're a lawyer, if you're a person who works in health, if you work in sports, whatever. Australia and Papua New Guinea have this amazing link, and there might be a couple who regret it, but out of 198 would go, wow.
Wouldn't it be great to revisit those emotions as a young person and think, what am I doing here? How did I end up here? And hopefully, how did I get so lucky? That first place that you travel, what a great experience that would be. In hindsight would be lovely. So you've said that PNG has changed a lot. How has it changed?
When I first went there, some parts of the highlands had only, maybe 30 years that they've been exposed to the outside world. So they've gone through the whole of the Industrial Revolution in that. I remember meeting two Highlanders who were selling some beads and some carvings outside a hotel where I was staying. I got talking with them, and when they were born, there was this old man, and when he lived the first 25 years of his life before first contact. That was an astonishing conversation. It just blew my mind. This man and his wife, what they had seen and what they had lived through was astonishing. They laughed about it because that was their thing. So the Highlands was and still is this fascinating part of the world that has only had that first quite a recent contact, which is less, in the towns are all established, Hagen, Goroka and Warburg. Phones have had a big difference there. Papua New Guinea's become more confident all the time. In phones, phones have got a good thing. The communication works really well with the One Talk system. Sometimes it means that some languages are diluting because of the phone, the influence of As we all know, the internet exposing some of the best and the worst things in the world. And it does tend to homogenise things. One thing I find fascinating about Papua New Guinea is the uniqueness, the number of languages, the number of different cultural groups. And Moresby is like this big modern city with all this wealth and the Stanley Hotel and the highways. Everything was quite this metropolis. But the gap between rich and poor is quite strong. There's a dissonance there. So that's not the good side of it. But the good side is look at the confidence in the area that I'm au fait with. The music scene is creating its own sound. It's getting really confident. Access to equipment and gear is a lot better now. And I think that confidence in sound, that confidence is something that applies to so many aspects of Papua New Guinean life. The intelligence and the ability of the best doctors, lawyers and writers in Papua New Guinea has grown much larger than what it was at first because the opportunity wasn't there. Where I think the opportunity's more there. Yeah. I mean, it's a long conversation, Belinda, about the changes in that 50 years. And it's a fascinating conversation to have with Papua New Guineans themselves. I mean, they're always fascinating to talk about, talking to an older person about what changes they've seen in their lifetime.
Absolutely. And then when you travel around, do you find that it's more accessible? I mean, clearly, it's had its own airline for those 50 years, always flying line of sight, and that's a whole different story. But just their access, would have different parts of PNG opened up, or have they actually closed down since you've been travelling?
I do know that as of 2 months ago, the road from the Highlands down to Moresby connected through, and that was always something that was fascinating, that the capital was separated from the Highlands and the North Coast.
The long driving road trips are out then.
Well, it was. I mean, because of the Owen Stanley Ranges being so, the mountains come out of nowhere. That's why the Kokoda Trail is so phenomenal, because it's like going up and then down, and it's quite rugged. And that spine goes all through the centre of Papua New Guinea and over into West Papua as well. Transport, I think, is, it's not necessarily that. There are roads. I know the road from Rabaul to Kimby is there that used to never be. Even still, the road and the amount of rain, and because it's a young country geologically, all the earth tremors kind of wreck the road, so it's sometimes still easier to go by boat.
Is that how you travel around? Do you fly between your destinations, or do you find yourself doing boat trips?
On boat trips for smaller things. If you're in Lorengau and Madison going out to BP on the west coast, the only way to do it is by boat. That's fantastic. I love being on boats. I love being on the back of a coconut truck or on the back of a ute. You can sit in the back of a ute on a country road around Rabaul. In Australia, to be against the law, but that's the wind in you. You got to be pale skin. You got to be careful you don't get sunburned because with the volcanic eruptions, you end up getting covered in dust and everything. But it's great sitting on the back of a ute with 8 people and everyone's talking. It's a nice community thing. The wind in your hair and you're seeing all the natural beauty in villages because of the climate. Obviously, everyone's out. It's an outdoor life, but villages on the roads or on the Sepik River and stuff, there are people everywhere. There's villages everywhere, and you're just watching life go by as people are outside a lot. Yeah, I mean, Air Guinea's never had an accident, and it flies in some of the most difficult terrain. If you ever get a chance to go on some of the smaller aeroplanes that go to more remote destinations, they're fantastic air trips as well.
I do love a small aircraft. I think there's something so exciting about them. PNG, it's never really taken off as a destination for Australians, but every country's got certain things that appeal to certain people. I mean, what sort of traveller would PNG appeal to most?
Well, if you're into fishing, you'd go. You'd go because it's got the best of, world's best practice for those two things. And there are a number of, what's the place about? Is it Biologs in West New Britain's great for fishing, and the Kimby Dive Resort there in West New Britain's fantastic. Bird watchers would love it, yeah. So that, what's the place up in Enga? I think it's called Kumul Lodge, where you get to see birds of paradise. And there's a little place I've been off New Island, just a little island called Lisanung Resort. So people go there for surfing or for diving. I mean, I'm not a diver, but I love snorkeling, and snorkeling is my place. So actually, my partner and I just came back from the Solomon Islands, where we went snorkeling, and but yes, in PNG there's lots of places like that. So there's that kind of market for it.
And on events as well, because a lot of those tours that do go are built around PNG's festival scene. So you've got that whole sing across the highlands, which I understand was a construct. It was a way to create relationships between tribes that otherwise might not be on the best of terms, so they could showcase their music, their costumes, their customs. Have you, I mean, as somebody who's been embedded in the PNG music scene, have you spent much time going to festivals or seeing things?
I've been to the festival, which I think happens every year in August. I thoroughly recommend that. The one in Hagen and Goroka, the big Highlands festivals. They're quite big. Enga's a bit smaller, but amazing. Similar kind of thing. Just a whole lot of groups coming, and there's a little bit of competition in trying to outdo each other. Face paint and the beads and the decoration and these haunting songs is quite something. In Rabaul, they have the Mask Festival, which the Tolo Wawagira, which is that's got Una activities, ancestral activities like dance and music, but it also has bands playing at night. It goes until 11 o'clock at night. I played there once with Telek, and that's a really family-friendly, great festival that happens there. That's in July, I think. With all these festivals, it's worth checking out because they sometimes shift from year to year. The Hiri Mawali Festival in Moresby. So there's been apparently a good, one of my favourite musicians in Papua New Guinea, Richard Mulga, has been involved in a festival in Milne Bay, and it was his place. That was a couple of months ago. So that's just started this year. The Bougainville Chocolate Festival in October is fantastic. That's got music and a lot of those cow bands. I think there's a crocodile arts festival that happens all the time. These festivals for each province or each major place, they're becoming a bigger thing, and everyone's dreaming of wanting them to be a place to bring in people, to give opportunity for their artists. They all try to set it up as much as they can to be friendly to outsiders. They're worth heading to for sure.
I had recently spoken to a new shark calling festival, which was happening in New Britain, which just sounded incredible. It's got ancestor connections. It's the capturing sharks. They fast beforehand and the shark comes to the person and basically sacrifices itself to the village. I just thought, this is so undocumented when you look for it. So many things have got thousands of years of history, but then they're also written about for the past thousands of years. And there's so little documentation outside it. And I think you've got a passion about that as well, haven't you? About documenting music, rhythms, instruments from PNG.
Yeah, no, the Shark Fest, I think New Island is where it is on the west coast there, yes.
Sorry, you're right, New Island.
They've got these fire dances. When people ask me as musicians, because you get asked this all the time in interviews, what's the best rock concert you've ever seen? And I always say Binding's fire dance, because those rhythms were as guttural and loud, and the visuals, and went from 6 o'clock until 6 in the morning, and the light show of the fire and these people, the Binding's masks are incredible. And they're running through this fire. It was just like, and it's one of those things you just keep your ear and eye out for. And this practice is so vital and unique. And maybe this conversation gets back to how things are changing. Some of the songs being sung by the old people, the younger ones are not necessarily learning them. So there's a big push to try to record these songs. These people are getting older, and even in the space of 40 years, the language has changed quickly. I'm sure some things that were practiced, in 1880 or 1890 at first contact times, many of those songs will have been lost. Some of those instruments will have been lost. Papua New Guinea has culturally those songs like diamonds, those songs, those masks and those dances. There's still a lot there, but as the world modernizes, they're the things that are in danger of being lost. So I'm quite passionate, as are a lot of Papua New Guinean sound engineers and artists, to record these songs, archive them, and make sure all the information about them is documented, even to record them and perform them and stuff, because that keeps them alive.
Are tourists then helping or hindering this process when we come into an almost pristine environment? Are we protecting it, or are we bringing in our own influences to their detriment?
Oh, I don't think tourism is a level in PNG, and it probably won't ever be at that level where that's in danger of wiping things out like it is in some other countries where there's this massive influx.
Not even like that reggae scene that's happening down in Port Moresby at the moment, which is very different to what it's been traditionally.
Yeah, the reggae and hip hop stuff that's happening there, it's their black culture. So I kind of get why that's attractive to Papua New Guinea musicians, and some of the better exponents of it are introducing some of their traditional elements into this music, into the reggae or the hip hop, but talk about things that are endangering traditional practices. A lot of other stuff brought in by Australians and British and German people back in the 1870s that far exceed the kind of musical corruption that might have occurred. There are still some musical practices that exist in PNG, quite a lot, that have these links back hundreds, thousands of years. I mean, many parts of Papua New Guinea have what the rest of the world's lost and is yearning for. That connection to its environment, the knowledge and the artistic practice that their ancestors had is something that the West has lost. Hopefully, there are some good people in Papua New Guinea who are fighting to retain these things, but there's also, the appeal of the dollar and unscrupulous practice by some people is but that's a fight that goes on everywhere. But I look at I hope they do win that fight, because Spain still has things that I know, sometimes you're up there and you're sitting on an island and you're going, this is the best that the world has to offer. And that's what Peace still has many of those places, in the highlands, on the coral reefs, on the islands.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to wrap up a gorgeous country. Look, the question I have to ask you, being super travel-y here, the question that everybody asks about PNG is it safe to travel there?
Precaution is needed in PNG because of poverty. It's not a place where you want to be walking around with your wallet hanging out of your back pocket, or being ostentatious with your gold chains. When people are poor, they're desperate. I've been to Papua New Guinea a lot, and my exposure to crime has been very minuscule, but I'm male and I'm 6 foot tall. I know a lot of women who work up in Papua New Guinea now, and they love it. Locals will look after them. I think one of the reasons why I haven't seen as much crime is because I'm hanging with my Papua New Guinean friends. People everywhere when they're drunk, dangerous. That's the same as being in King Street in Melbourne. I wouldn't go there at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's dangerous. I don't trust. To go to a country that has that grassroots and that life in the raw and all the wonderful things that PNG has, the flip side of that, there is that element of risk. But I feel sad when I hear of people who go to and they just stay in their hotels the time, or people who are working there and live in gated communities, because they're missing out on the best parts. One of the changes now is that you find on Sunday afternoons, families are out everywhere. They go to church in the morning and they're having a picnic somewhere, or they're down the beach swimming. This community family vibe is quite strong. There are a lot more music concerts in Port Moresby than there used to be. And people turn up and they're great, Again, don't have your wallet hanging out of your pocket, or don't leave your phone on a table. It's saying, it's the dignity of risk, and the slight risk of going to PNG is bad. How so many people I know go to PNG and everybody's warning them before they go, but careful this, careful that.
The final question, which I'll knock down before I get diverted elsewhere, is the final question we ask all our guests is, what is your most bizarre travel experience? And it doesn't have to be PNG. It can be anywhere in the world.
Oh, no, look, we'll stick to PNG because, the cliche is the land of the unexpected, and it's well earned. I went to this funeral once. It was on an island in the Trobriand Islands called Tawema, and it was a full moon. And one thing I found in Papua New Guinea, when you're in the village, when you're in a place that doesn't have electricity, when there is a full moon, it's a very different day because people are up all night. They take advantage of it. You've got this light. And so the paramount chief had died. And so we were there for this big ceremony for his passing. But it was the happiest funeral I've ever been to in my life. There was music, there was dancing, there was laughing, chickens going off. People had been swimming at 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was just wild. It was like it was a celebration of the old man's life. And it was all like he'd passed on all the knowledge to those behind him. They were just really celebrating it. And it was just, and people in the Trobriand Islands are quite small, and their houses that they sleep in are really small. I think about 3 o'clock in the morning, my partner and I, they said, "Oh, look, do you want to go to bed and lie down?" And my feet are like sticking outside of the house by about 1.5 foot. People are drinking kind of this yawa, this sort of banana infused kind of liquor that you had to go kind of careful on, eating food out of banana leaves. And I got very, very little sleep that night, but it was just quite amazing. It was quite amazing. But when I saw that question, there's so many ways. I was with a friend who started arguing with these people who were trying to grease him for a road tax in the Highlands, and he lost his cool with them. And I thought, oh, this is not going to end well for any of us. And we ended up sitting on the side of the road having a cup of tea with them, and people giving each other hugs and stuff. It was like, 20 minutes before I thought, what we've gone for here. But yeah, I love that Tawema story because I have pictures in my head of, moonlight through, palm trees and through the koolal trees and the string band music. And there was this girl string bands, halfway through the song, this girl would come in with these impossibly high harmonies. Like she's just belting out, and they are higher than I've ever heard anyone sing. It was something really joyous about it. So that'll be my bizarre, my wild experience in Penguin.
Trobriand Islands. So you've wrapped it up beautifully on bizarre experiences. David, thank you so much for joining us on The World Awaits. It's been an absolute joy to disappear for a brief moment to PNG with you.
Thanks, Belinda. I really appreciate that. Thanks.
That was musician David Bridie of Not Drowning Waving, talking about his travels in Papua New Guinea, and we'll put a link to his website and those incredible musical collaborations in the show notes.
You're listening to The World Awaits. Subscribe through our website at theworldawaits.au.
So we've got 5 great tips about how to protect your devices on vacation from eSIM provider Saili about staying smart and taking precautions so that you have got secure mobile connectivity. And a lot of people don't realise that their hotel rooms can be compromised as absolute hotspots for digital threats. So when you are reclining by the pool, your personal data and devices could be at threat.
So one of the main reasons, actually, or main causes of this is actually the hotel Wi-Fi. So you need to make sure that you protect your connection. So while it's convenient, it's not obviously always the easiest, the safest place, because it's one of the easiest gateways for hackers. So they can actually just get in pretty easily and exploit the network and steal whatever information they want for your Wi-Fi. So the tip is always confirm that, make sure it's the correct network name with the hotel staff, and even better, avoid public Wi-Fi. So make sure you're actually using specific hotel Wi-Fi and that it's got a secure, and affordable internet access.
The next tip, which is from Saili, is using USB charging ports. They suggest sticking to the socket. So USB ports in hotel rooms, often you'll see them above the power areas. They are fantastic for international travellers, but they aren't always safe. So the ports can be modified, and so that malware is actually transferred to your phone via the USB cable. So it's allowing hackers to, get in, check your passwords, your credit card, your location. So the way around this is to use your own charger, plug it directly into the power socket instead of using the USB outlet. And otherwise, for extra protection, you could even travel with USB data blocker or a portable power bank instead of charging from the wall.
Yeah, and this is one that people might not think about too much, but smart TVs. So smart TVs in the hotel rooms are often equipped with, cameras and mics and the like. And so therefore they're sometimes poorly secured. So hackers can actually get into them. This is scary. Hackers getting into them and are eavesdropping and watching and capturing your login details. So, and it always does surprise me sometimes. Quite often you go to hotels and you see someone's login information still in the system. And I often think, gosh, I mean, I personally don't do that, and not because I didn't, not because I thought that someone was eavesdropping, but I don't know. It does just sort of feel like you are just putting yourself up at risk, really, particularly because obviously with these smart TVs, like we're saying. So the way around it is to, like I said, don't sort of log into these apps using your own personal accounts, and unplug the TV when it's not in use. And also, they even suggest to go as far as covering the camera.
That's really interesting because I was watching an Airbnb, an influencer couple in Perth that had found a camera in their Airbnb. So it was even more brazen than that. It wasn't embedded into the TV, which is what they're talking about. But it was just sitting there, and of course they checked out and reported it to Airbnb. I never use the Netflix. I never put my Netflix details in, only because I can never remember my passwords. So, but sometimes you go, oh, I can't remember my password. I'll just click on, and then I see that the last person is still logged in. So the thing is too, if you go and watch, some little rom-com and they're all about crime, you are totally going to ruin their algorithm as well. So that's always a funny one to think of when you're logging into somebody else's account.
Yes.
Another thing to keep an eye out for are automatic connections. So most smartphones, are set to automatically connect to known Wi-Fi networks, but devices can reconnect without you noticing, even when you're not in the room. So what they suggest is turning off the auto connect for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and making sure that you've got your firewalls or your VPNs up, in making sure that your security apps are up to date and that they are able to launch automatically if you do connect to public networks.
And the last one is about cyber criminal groups. Like, they actually name one called Dark Hotel, who've apparently been known to target high-profile travellers at luxury hotels, and they have campaigns through emails where they can, where if you click on the link, I mean, this is obvious, right? We all know not to click on suspicious links on our phones and our emails, but they're saying that this is becoming really advanced with these cyber groups, that they're actually going in and sending emails that are really convincing and highly personalised, so that you do click on these links. So don't click on any links, obviously, or download attachments if you don't know, particularly when you're on holiday. And make sure your device is always protected, so that you don't get hacked, because who wants to be away on holiday and find out that you've been hacked and you've lost even more money than the money you've already spent. So couple of tips there and we will put a link in the show notes. Next week, I'm taking you to Tahiti. I was the only journalist attending Tahiti's first yoga festival, and I'm going to explain why you need to plan a trip to this tropical paradise next year around the event, and also what else there is to do on this beautiful French Polynesian island.
I don't think you need to convince me, Kirsty, but we're looking forward to it. And we would also love it if you followed us on our socials. You'll find us at The World Awaits Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Or drop us a note. We love to hear from our friends, and you can find us at hello@theworldawaits.au if you are enjoying the episode. Well, why not give us a rating or a review?
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.